Well, here's my piles from yesterday. Been trying to rototiller them and I'm having some difficulties. So I figured out the obvious solution is to level the higher spots out with a rake. Then try to rototill it. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot. I've got the depth like 4 inches, I think. So I'm going to come over here, in the garden here. This along the raised along the low tunnel there, that's going to be a path, and then the path will be up here near the fence line on the top, and the beds will go back into this mound. I'm going to do raised beds and kind of keyhole them, leave little pathways coming in and out. So I'm going to till this up and then shape the beds, and I think I'm going to try. I was thinking about getting some logs out of the forest for the walls, but I have some slabs like the outside of logs from the sawmill. I'm going to see if I can use those. Seems a pretty good use for them. I'll drive some stakes in the ground and maybe use a couple screws, hold it all together. Beds don't have to be great. I just need them to hold up for a year or two. And then we'll see about putting some low tunnels on them in the fall maybe. But I want to get something. This dirt is so soft, it just kind of doesn't hold any shape. When I get rain, it just all flattens out. So I need something to hold that dirt in place and get some crops in, because it's late March now. I need to get some stuff in the ground. So I'll show you a picture later. WiggleCulture here. I was tilling on the garden. It started raining on me. Then I lost the depth adjustment pin and the little cotter pin that goes in it. So I lost the whole shebang. So I had to quit using it. So I'm using that tiller, tilling this part, getting ready to put raised beds in. Here's my other thing I was working on. I was going to knock down those high spots and run the tiller over. That kind of manure hay mix. And this is kind of what I ended up with. It was still kind of wet, so I just ran over it kind of fast. It's definitely not where it could be, but it's not too bad for now. I'll let it dry out and then chop it up some more. But that's the start of a permaculture on contour hill. I'm going to hold all that water back from coming down the hill and hitting the driveway. I'm going to soak it in, and we're going to see what kind of problems we have, where the water's going to congregate, which is probably right there. Try to wash it out. We'll see if we can deal with the water, hold it back as much as possible. I'm getting ready to put some manure right over the top of the old wood chip pile. I'm not going to bother moving it. I'm just going to go right over it all the way up to the little deck there. So I wanted to talk to you about, I was out here using this tiller, and my neighbor stopped by and said, "What are you doing using the tiller? I thought you were no-till." And I said, "I am. I'm against the plow." I was totally against the tiller, but I'm not sure that's necessarily the case anymore. What I've done here is I've set it on about 6-inch depth, and I really didn't even hit the subsoil. I was still hitting pretty good dirt. I hit it in a few places. I ran over it at 4 inches and really didn't hit anything. I put down a 6, and I was hitting some high spots, kicking up a few, rocks and stuff, a little bit of clay. Nothing too bad. So basically, I had just been piling layer after layer, never tilling. But this area that's tilled is just the extent of my tilling. I'm going to leave my mound intact. I'm going to leave my little path intact. And then I'm just basically chopping up my compost. Chopping up my soil to make it very easy to put into beds. So I'll start making my raised beds, and this is going to be a dream to work with. It takes hours and hours of back-breaking work out of the equation. I mean, running that tiller is a bit of work, but it's sure not as bad as just taking a shovel and digging, because I really can't get any equipment in there, because the way this thing is too big to get in there and maneuver. Then I have a little trencher, and it's just not much good for that kind of work. So tilling this up and loosening all that dirt up is, I think, the way to go. And I don't know how much structural damage I have done to the soil. I have left the subsoil intact, and this is like a one-time disturbance now. I disturbed it, you know, a few years back when I made this mound originally. Maybe 2-3 years ago, whatever it was. A one-time disturbance. And now I've done it again. But once I get these beds in, I would hope that I would just bring in the fertility in the form of compost and just throw it in the beds. The walkways will be my new compost piles. I'll just pile up hay and whatever else in there and walk over the top of my compost. So as it's slowly doing its thing, I don't have to do any turning or anything. It turns into black dirt. And I'll tell you more about that later, how I would use that. But for now, I'm very much in favor of a tiller within the right capacity. I'm not going to be tilling this every year. This is a one-time shot, I hope. Even though I do have plans for maybe tilling the walkways, just to loosen everything up. That way I can just kind of scoop my compost up into my beds, then lay down some new compost. And, you know, running that tiller, chopping up the weeds and all of that, and clearing those paths. Again, that's not really where I'm trying to grow anything at all. So I just take it down to subsoil if I can go that far, because sometimes I can't go too deep, because then I just get a pond. But in the right context, I think the tiller is a really labor-saving tool. And I don't think they should be hated on as nearly as much. But again, you got to use it in the right context. Everybody driving by now thinks I'm a tiller guy. Looking at this beautiful dirt, they're like, oh yeah, look what a tiller does. And it's like, a tiller had nothing to do with that. There's Mrs. WiggleCulture.
Hi.
You want to jump up in my cab?
No, I need to get out.
Okay. Well, this is WiggleCulture out.